thick and thin, right?
I can tell, for any ladies out there that are curious, I can tell you the difference between those two right now. Thin. Just thin.
Needler.
Yeah. It's not so much small as it is real thin, like spaghetti.
And so it's really hard to go and have a public discourse type conversation where the facts aren't even established, right? And like basic facts, not was this person admitted to the hospital, but like what is this stuff actually being used for? My personal opinion is that vitamin E acetate and other diluents are used because it's cheap. You know, you can buy it for $2 or $3 a gallon, where you know my stuff is somewhere around $50,000 to $60,000 a gallon. Like at its cheapest price, and you can do that math.
The fuck?
I
can do that. As a Mississippi State guy, I can do a math. That's
right.
A big difference. So,
yeah. So
they're using the cheaper cutting agent, which just so happens to give me popcorn lung, or not me, but like the general public.
Yeah, and maybe it has some beneficial properties other than making you a fuck ton of money, right? For buying it for $2 and selling it for $60,000, right? That's a pretty good spread. It might hold the flavor that you want better. You really want that vanilla custard or whatever to buy.
What's funny when we talk about these inhalers, you know, like I've never seen somebody with a weed pen or something just blow out like a cloud of smoke that's a goddamn, just like a tornado or something.
Yeah.
You see those people with those huge boxes, and they are.
I'm trying my hardest not to use the word.
Breaths to spread out that much goddamn smoke.
Yeah,
and it's those people. Is that the folks that are going into like the hospitals? It's not the folks that are going into our stores and buying your legit product. Like,
well, so you know, and this is going down a pretty nuanced road, but those vapors that you just referred to,
call them what I call them, dare you?
Vapors.
Sure.
Vapors Mafia.
Yeah, sure. Those guys and gals. You know, they use a blend of substance that's usually somewhere on the spectrum between 100% vegetable glycerin, VG, and propylene glycol, PG.
I was supposed to ask you about that, and we'll get to that next.
So that's a VG blend, and depending on your vapor of choice, they'll tell you what their desired blend is. There's different, you know, characteristics at different ratios. To that PG or VG blend, they'll add flavor. So that can be natural flavor, it can be artificial flavor, it can be whatever the fuck you want. It can be apple juice if you want. And then they add nicotine. So weed oil, it's an oil, it's a fat. It doesn't go into VG very well, but it does go into PG very well. So, you know, in the early days, you would see people mixing their THC oil with PG to make a pen. Again, it's not a thickener, it makes it thinner, which allows that stuff to
go into more cartridges.
Yeah, to work with shittier hardware.
And so this is one thing, and we don't come on this podcast as slander. If we don't have anything nice to say, we don't say anything at all. But I feel like we would be doing ourselves a disservice if we didn't let our stoner listeners know, seeing as a large proponent of them are. We work with the Live Well, not necessarily exclusively, but we did promote the Clinic's 5 cartridges and a PAX pen just the other day. But Live Well does not allow the lab, who is the product of the clinic, because they are using PG in their cartridges. And so PG is not, obviously we mentioned the vitamin E acetate, but is there like anything besides, is it just a thinning agent? Is it that the lab is using to put in their cartridges?
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point I'm slowly meandering to, which is, so Live Well, very respectable company, you know, shout out to Brian Keegan.
Thanks.
So
I'll make sure to tag him in this one.
That's good. But you know, they hold all of their products to a very high standard. And you know, Brian, I think rightfully so, says I don't want to be selling my customers cartridges with propylene glycol in them. Great, cool. He's not the only one to think that. So if you're you are a clandestine cartridge manufacturer, and your buyer says, well, fuck, man, I don't want no PG in that. Well, fine, there's no PG in that. Unfortunately, you still wanted to realize the value of buying for $2 and selling for $60,000, right? Those economics sound really good to you, right? You're going to support the podcast for another 2 years, but you can't have PG. So now what else can you cut it with? Right? You can't cut it with VG, that's done. So now you're looking at these other glycols and acetates and sterols and all these other chemical compounds, which no one really knows what the fuck they do when you smoke a whole bunch of them. So that's also driving this choice to what we call other diluents.
Is there something we should be on the lookout for? Like, is there going forward for, let's say
Yeah, I heard that all non-Spherex carts kill you. You didn't hear that?
Okay, that's the message we're getting out. That's the message we are going to be pushing this week. There was a couple others. Shout out to our friends at Seed and Smith. I think Harmony was also on our list. But
it's part of the deal.
Yeah, if you didn't smoke Spherex, there's a good chance you go in the hospital. You heard it from the man himself.
That's a joke.
Yeah, for sure. But we will now. I'll edit it out for you. What's it called? Let's talk a little bit about something else then, because we have dicked around. We've really hammered home the Spherex, the cartridge game, as well as, I guess, the climate. You see how I use climate as a different term there? That's a Mississippi thing. Y'all have actually shifted into a new market, the hard seltzer game, but not a hard seltzer White Claw with alcohol. Y'all are going a whole different direction with it. Tell me a little bit about the Phyx water campaign that y'all have just recently launched. I mean, probably right here at the end of the summer. So
So Phyx is a THC infused and CBD infused sparkling water product. It's flavored with natural fruit essences, similar to another popular seltzer, non-spike seltzer out there on the market. I've heard.
We don't use names, Chris.
There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, fuck it. LaCroix, huh?
But it's 0 calories. It's got a light flavor. It's 2.5 milligrams of THC, 2.5 milligrams of CBD, and it's got a really great effect. And me being kind of the geeky scientist that I am, spent a lot of time and effort and energy figuring out how to emulsify or mix oil and water to get this THC oil into water. The net effect is you have really, really tiny particles of THC in this water, on the order of like 70, 100 nanometers, and having particles that small means it gets in your bloodstream a lot faster.
Okay, so you nerded out a little bit there on us. Calm down, we're not all Stanford birthed. What's the average nanogram meter to like ratio? Like, what's normalcy? Like, what will catch us a buzz? Do we need is it like an edible? Like, let's talk to me like I'm high, because I'm pretty fucking high.
Is this like mainlining?
Yeah. Is this like no one gives a shit about nanograms. People want to know, will it get you fucked up?
Nanometers.
Again, nerd. No one cares.
This is America.
Yeah.
We're not on the metric system.
And that's the answer. He went to grad school, so over there, I don't know if he got into England or not, but he did. Let's talk. But
the pond.
Well, it's not really a pond, it's an ocean, but we'll work on you. We'll work on you with that. So
so you're mainlining
2 of these and you feel it, like, in my opinion.
Yeah, your mainlining argument isn't
mainlining
that far off, right?
How fast are we breaking the blood-brain barrier?
Well, you're getting the THC in your blood.
How often do you get choked during sex? That's the blood-brain barrier, that only one that anyone can. Oh, shout out to our friends at Auto Asphyxiation Masturbation, except for the guy from Kill Bill. He took an L. But everybody else.
You have a spotter.
Yeah. That's rule number 3 here on this podcast, Niccolo, as you look to try to get out of here. We always have a spotter.
So would you say that, like, because smoking weed takes effect so fast because it gets into your bloodstream?
Yeah, so in your vape product, you have THC molecules sitting in your lungs. It goes into those little pockets in your lungs, I think they're called alveoli, and that THC gets into your bloodstream like that, right? So the Stoned Up Tea guys do actually know how to open a beer, I promise.
All right, continue to tell us about nanograms.
All right, so when you smoke it, it goes in your bloodstream right away. Generally, when you eat it, that edible has to go into your. Here, come here. It has to go into your.
We're really strong. So we're trying not to fix.
Motherfucker.
That's what happens when you're born on a Stanford floor, Chris.
You can open bottles.
That was very impressive. Or lack thereof from 2 of us. Edit that out.
When you smoke it goes in your bloodstream right away. When you eat it, it has to go into your stomach through your liver first pass. If you're a podcast listener, if you've ever listened to Joe Rogan talk about it, he talks about the 12-methoxy metabolite, which is basically that slow and low, super edible stoned that you get. And, if you're into that, cool. But if you're not, it can be a little daunting, right? So I took a gummy bear, I didn't feel anything. I took another gummy bear, I didn't feel anything. I took a third, oh shit, I'm high. That's probably that first gummy bear, and now you're on the roller coaster for a while because you got that 12-hydroxy metabolite rolling around your body. the small particles, nanoparticles.
Small works for us, by the way. You can say small. That word resonates real well with Kip.
Small particles.
Yeah, small particles.
So those small particles are able to actually get into your bloodstream faster without going through your gut and your liver. So don't have that 12-hydroxy running around your bloodstream. You actually have THC running around your bloodstream, which means that the effect is more like a smokable high, and which means that you're up rapidly and you're also down more rapidly than you are with a traditional edible. So we say you feel it in 10 to 15 minutes, and you're usually down in an hour or two. So, for those folks that...
Half-life, I believe, is the term there.
Oh, look at you, bro.
I used to sell medical sales and drugs on the side.
You used to sell medical sales?
And drugs. I can tell you how many grams are an ounce if you chop everything down to 0.9, as well as I can tell you how much it costs to buy a ventilator from Philips Respironics. Shout out to our friends over there at Philips Respironics.
They're going to help us out one day. So have you guys thought with this whole thing, first of all, what's the kind of feedback you guys have been getting?
So the feedback is really interesting. Everyone who tries it seems to like it or love it, right? It's a great alcohol alternative. It fits into people's everyday life. They can do it yoga, they can do it in a movie, they can do it before they get on a plane. It's very like destigmatizing. It's the opposite of walking down the street smoking a big joint. The flavor's good, the effect is great. Even heavy users will, feel an effect off 2.5 milligrams, which is pretty cool. I think one of the biggest frustrations that we've had is, in everyone that we sample, they really love it. And then they're like, can I get more? I was like, yeah, just go to the dispensary. They're like, I don't want to go to a dispensary. And I think that's where, the folks at Live Well, for instance, are doing a really good job in trying to make their stores more open and accommodating to all people. But some of the feedback that we're getting is the quote-unquote White Claw crowd doesn't always feel super comfortable going into a dispensary.
It's intimidating, especially if you don't know, like if you go in there and you're having to ask these questions and they use words like nanograms and, terpenes and baby penis and things like that. It's very intimidating to have that conversation with folks in the dispensary. So it's like, what do we ask for? Like, what do we expect? Like, is it I say downers, but is it like is there a sativa indica mix, or is it like, hey, we just want to, I find that the lime plays well as a mixer with like over a little bit of ice, and if you're a small alcoholic, a little bit of vodka or gin. Like, it plays well in that regard. But if you're not as comfortable, how would one want to approach, tell me about Phyx, or why would I want Phyx?
So it's equivalent to a glass of wine, right? Okay. So, one is not going to get you fucked up.
Language, please. It's a podcast for families.
Sorry. One is not going to get you straight fucked.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Phrasing.
But it will give you a nice buzz in kind of the duration that you want to enjoy your products in. Meaning, you don't have that delay. So in all the areas that you would probably think about enjoying, like a nice white wine, unwinding after a long day, enjoying on a patio with friends. Denver loves to brunch, so a couple of these with brunch is great. And if you ever get that feeling where whoa, I think I'm being a little too high, you just kind of back off, and you're back down kind of quick.
It dissipates a little quick.
Great way to dip your toe in the water, experience all the
That's
great.
What I was trying to say.
Yeah, all the great benefits of cannabis with almost none of the risk. Edible marijuana is way stronger than smokable marijuana. So the only reason that it resonates, I think, with a lot of the Canna Curious crowd is the dosing mechanism. That it's much easier to eat a gummy bear than it is to smoke a vape pen. Or
have you thought about like maybe increasing the amount of like THC or
yeah.
So there's a couple different ones, and I believe y'all are about to launch another flavor as well.
So right now it's 4 flavors, and they're all 2.5 milligrams THC, 2.5 milligrams of CBD. I think there's some obvious next steps in higher dosage, THC only, CBD only, seasonal flavors. We all know you guys.
Pumpkin spice.
I was going to say you love your pumpkin spice lattes.
Shout out to our girl Cassidy Eats and our fat friend Fat Guy. He loves pumpkin spice. God. He's about as basic bitch as they come. But okay, yeah. So let's go through them again.
Yeah,
Sorry.
So I think there's some obvious stuff, but I don't think right now the road to traction on this product is new flavors or that. I think we need to get it in the hands of more people. I think we need to drive those people to great dispensaries and get them comfortable with this product. I mean, even from a sports